Next, we've got David Furniss from Regional Development, RDALC, Regional Development Australia Limestone Coast, officially. It's a long word. So David works for RDALC as a Business and Workforce Development Manager. David has had an extensive career in regional areas, including being involved in community and economic development in both a business advisor role and in workforce development, employment and training programs. And David is looking forward to working with business and community organisations across the region. So I will let David explain what he does. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I might just preface that introduction by saying that I was looking forward to working across the region. When I first came here about 14 months ago, I grew up in the upper southeast, but I'm also looking at retirement at the end of June. So that stint is fast coming to a conclusion, but I've been enjoying my role. I might just quickly mention there's the whole range of services available through RDA Limestone Coast, so I haven't spent a lot of time going into those this evening. Suffice to say that we've got a career services, we run a disability hub service for people that are trying to get employment in the emerging arena of disability services around the NDIS, and we run business services. We've got workforce development programs going on. We run a series of workshops across the region. We're working closely with the Local Government Association, Chamber of Commerce. I know there's the chair here this evening, so I do see a few familiar faces. So we work across the business associations across the Limestone Coast, and if we haven't had any connection with you and your business and you'd like to know more about the services, feel free to contact me afterwards. I thought the opportunity this evening was twofold. One, I wanted to just quickly mention the regional growth strategy which is being undertaken currently. It's an initiative of the Local Government Association, and the RDA Limestone Coast is partnering through the Economic Development Group. So I just wanted to go through that very briefly with you. And then I thought I might just talk a little bit about retail and what's in front of us in terms of the business challenges, I suppose, particularly in the retail sector. So there's a lot of busy slides here, but I'll try and flick through them as quickly as I can. So the Limestone Coast Regional Growth Strategy has been initiated. It's already underway. Regional Australia Institute has been engaged as the consultant to consult with the community, and so the economy is projected to add 3,800 jobs by 2022, and to make sure that we realise this potential, the region will have to build on competitive strengths and support the enabling factors. So what are those, and how do we all get on the same page to ensure that we can achieve the growth opportunities that are in front of us? And you know, we're very fortunate to be living in a region where there is some significant upside and growth, but there's also some challenges that come along with that. So the growth factors that will drive the Limestone Coast region's growth that have been identified so far: building on industry with a competitive advantage and future growth potential, particularly with global mega trends that are occurring, stimulating emerging industries in the region, healthcare, social assistance. The NDIS is another example, the projection of jobs and growth in that sector. The aged care sector is probably one of our major employing sectors and growing. But there's a whole range of things that the industry can take advantage of. Some of the issues will be looked at in more detail, particularly around greater skilling. I think one of the biggest issues and challenges that I've seen in the time that I've been in the region is that there is substantial growth, but our biggest challenge is finding skilled workers, and also the workforce opportunities going forward are going to significantly increase, but the gap between available workforce and how we attract or retain those workers is probably our most biggest challenge, I think. Certainly one of those, and that's one of the areas that has been identified in so far in this initial exercise that the consultants are going through. So there's the things that I'm just going to touch on. Building industry, the competitive advantage is one of those areas that I mentioned, and that will, that'll come off the back of agribusiness. We're seeing significant changes in the processing industries. We're also potentially seeing emerging value-adding opportunities across the region. We've got one of the largest seed industries regions in South Australia and probably in Australia. We're fortunate to have a lot of water, so there's some significant opportunities for us. Stimulating the emerging industries, and as I said, healthcare, social assistance, and the NDIS is going to be a major contributor in that area. And already we've seen the trends in those areas of growth in terms of jobs starting to overtake some of the traditional workforce areas within the region. Accelerating the region's business ecosystem. I think we've got somebody here from representing both the universities this evening. UniSA, of course, we've got a campus here, and we've got somebody here from Flinders Uni tonight who have just started to bring their Envision program down to the Mount Gambier. The city of Mount Gambier is about to run that program, and I think there are 3 intakes over the next couple of years. So that's going to be an exciting area for entrepreneurs and small business startups to take the opportunity to be part of the Envision program through Flinders Uni, and it's actually connected into Tonsley in Adelaide and all the fantastic things that are going on there. It's going to be dependent on the NBN and the big pipe that, of course, the UniSA already enjoys that up at their campus, and that's a significant infrastructure that will help accelerate business growth. The area that I'm particularly passionate about is the one about skilling industry and business growth. We've actually got a forum coming up which will inform the regional strategy in, I think the 29th of May is when the Regional Australia Institute people will be back here, and we'll be inviting some key industry people to a workshop on the 29th. If anyone's got particular views about what they'd like to see happening in the region, most of you would be very much aware that our TAFE delivery in the area has reduced significantly over the last few years, unfortunately, and there's some challenges around that whole education training space. I think the other thing that we've been seeing is that there's a significant number of young people coming out of the school system who are regarded by employers as unemployable or not ready to work, and that's a substantial issue for the region as well. So we've got to be able to convert a lot more of our young people into the workforce. We've also got to recognise we've got a lot of mature age people who can still contribute in the workforce, particularly people like Bruce and I. We're in that category, Bruce, aren't we? So they're the sorts of opportunities that we need to identify, but the infrastructure that we see at the moment in that employment training space in the region is significantly reduced on what it should be. There's a key opportunity and a big part of the success going forward around education and training will be dependent on the local industries and local businesses driving that agenda. So I can't emphasise that enough, that if you want to see a reinvigorated TAFE campus, you want to see a lot more training coming through the University SA campus, you want to see the Flinders investment really create the growth opportunities that the businesses and industries want to see in the region, then it's absolutely critical that you get engaged in that conversation and tell the agencies and government what you think you'd like to see, because right now we've got a new state government. We've got an opportunity I met with the Regional Development Minister this morning at a breakfast in Narracourt, He's at another dinner in Mount Gambier this evening. But there is an opportunity. If you have a look at the policy direction of the Liberal government, they are certainly going to restructure and have a look at the TAFE SA model. There's a lot of opportunity in those policy documents, but my view is that unless the region has the conversation and has a very clear vision about what they want and inform the government of that, then we'll continue to have a conversation about what we could have had or what we should have had. So that's a very important message that I'd like to convey tonight. If you want to contribute to that forum in some way or provide some particular input around your workforce requirements or future needs, I'm more than happy to talk to you about that after. Invigorating working age population, I think I've covered that, but if you look at some of the stats, 43% of unemployed in the region are long-term unemployed. That's a pretty scary number. What that says though is that there's a significant cohort of people that can be put through appropriate pre-vocational training at the TAFE campus, for instance, and can convert that number to gainfully employed people in your workforces. And the other one is a bit disturbing, is that 11% youth unemployment. Bear in mind that the unemployment numbers are a bit rigged, so the real number is a lot worse than that, because they talk about being employed part-time or casual or 10 hours a week, then you're not counted in that 11%. So that's not a great indicator at all. Okay, so 47.1% of working age unemployed have low levels of education and 35.9% are not studying. That's a disturbing figure for the Limestone Coast. We're below a lot of our other counterpart regions, and it's an area that I believe we've got to do something about if you're going to get the growth and enjoy the opportunities that are presenting themselves in the region. So I won't, leveraging regional strengths to promote regional tourism. I think, again, my observation is that there's potentially 14% of all jobs already across the Limestone Coast region from the tourism sector. Having said that, the product offering and the capacity to meet the expectations of our international visitors is somewhat behind where it should be. And I think that's another challenge for the region. If you look at the South Australian Tourism Commission, they're doing a fantastic job of spending a lot of money in the overseas market. We're seeing a significant growth in the tourism sector, but if you look at the quality and the availability of experiential tourism in the region, we've got a lot of work to do to improve that product offering. And that's another challenge for us. I think we need to be able to provide the experiences and opportunities that those people are anticipating when they arrive. And you only get that one opportunity with some of those visitors, and they'll go back and talk about their experience. So we've got to get that right. But that's another area that the RDA's been working with the South Australian Tourism Industry Council and trying to run a lot of workshops for tourism operators in particular, because there's a lot of upside to that story. Enabling infrastructure is another key to realising the growth. The RDA is already working on a significant piece of work around a regional infrastructure plan, and that will be very informative in terms of prioritising where the region's infrastructure spend needs to be. Now look, that's a bit of a busy side, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, other than that it's just been highlighting where some of the jobs and some of the key industry sectors are. So it's a bit difficult for you, I think, to see that. The one up the top is clearly ahead is the healthcare and social assistance that I talked about. Some of those bigger ones are around agriculture, forestry and fishing. But it's interesting that administration, support services, arts and recreation services is quite an interesting mix of, and that I suppose is another important part about the economic potential of this region is the diversity. So it's got significant upside there. If you're interested in what's happening in other parts of the world around collaboration and achieving large-scale social change, and I think probably the thing that I'm talking about around the education and changing that that cohort of young unemployed people and addressing the long-term unemployed is a significant social challenge for us. I think it is part of the economic development agenda. You might be interested in having a look at collective impact as a model in Canada and in America. If you're interested in that, on the YouTube slides there, it's a way that some very exciting stuff is happening around the globe, but it does take 10 years and it does take some collaboration and having everybody on the same page working on the same vision. But there's some exciting stuff happening in that collective impact space, so I thought it was useful just to throw that up there. Just checking the time, how we're tracking. 10 minutes? 5? Yeah, okay. So I just want to touch briefly around the transformation in the retail sector, because I think that's, we've seen a significant change in the retail sector. It's not going to slow down. It's increasingly fast-paced environment, and we're seeing the evidence of that, I think, through some of our smaller towns in particular, but it's not unusual to see the impact of that in Mount Gambier and Millicent and some of the larger centres as well. So it's a fast-moving space. I think the trends are not good for store-based retailers generally, but there's also an upside if people are proactive in that space, recognise what the consumer's looking for, and continue to modify and improve their offering. Just a couple of key messages in that. We live in the age of the customer. Digital channels have an increasingly important role to play, defining brand image, positioning and customer experience. Buying online is not just about price. Customers want it all and they want it now. The customer is calling the shots. So the findings have highlighted 7 key facts amount to call to action. Evolve or be left behind. Retailers aren't as yet offering a seamless experience to customers across channels, so we need to make the experience more diverse. Retailers aren't deciphering the data fast enough. It's coming at us at a rapid rate of knots. So the whole area of NBN and online and social media, etc., is, if you're not playing in it, you've got to start playing in it if you want to grow your business. Connecting the dots across the various customer touch points is now extremely important. Loyalty programs are not dead, but require a serious rethink. Be very aware the social media savvy consumer. Businesses aren't used to technology, aren't using it to the best effect, and that's an ongoing challenge for us. Some of us like playing in that space, some don't, but we haven't got a choice if we're going to be out there in the market. While technology is the enabler, few have managed to define and execute an effective roadmap fit for the digital age. And I think the introduction of the entrepreneur incubator from Flinders Uni and those types of things can only help us in that space. Showrooms work best for differentiated goods, products that vary significantly from one retailer to the next. The showrooms potentially offer the alluring prospect of a great consumer experience and solid economic fundamentals. So these are just a few key things that were pulled out of a retail presentation, and I appreciate the opportunity to just touch on those tonight. If anybody's interested in more information around any of those things, I'm more than happy to have a chat later. Any final questions? Thank you very much.